What's going on out there, Facebook and YouTube live land? Welcome back to this episode of On Another Line Live. Thank you guys for joining us this evening. Today, we're going to be talking about a video that I released today, talking about my favorite go-to baits when the water's cold. We're also going to talk about some jerkbait fishermen. I had a fella reach out to me on a comment today wanting to know if I can give some insight on jerkbait fishing, and I feel like that's a great place to start. Just recently brought in some new nostalgia for myself, and that includes this jewel right here, which is a regular Nintendo controller. We'll get into that in just a second. Look at where video games have come from when it comes to fishing. We're going to look at that, but right after this short intro, we're going to get into this episode of On Another Line again, talking about the video that I released today, some of my favorite confidence is key or confidence is king baits, things that I throw when I don't think anything else is going to work, because I feel like having confidence in a bait is about 80% of the battle. So right after this short intro, we'll get right in it.
Gotta get your arms way up in a cast and set the hook on smallmouth bass, and then you'll understand. Gotta get your hands on a Shimano reel and a G-Loom is right. I bet you like what you feel. Step on the deck and give it a whirl. Hello, welcome to my world.
What is going on, guys? Welcome to this episode of On Another Line Live. Today we're talking wintertime fishing and some nostalgia. Share out this stuff. If you guys don't care to share it out, I'd appreciate it. Well, all right, so sharing this stuff out, but again, just want to let you guys know what we're going to be talking about today. We're going to be talking about, yeah, man, I guarantee it. If you're coming here after KVD, the bar is set really high. Those of you guys, I'm streaming live on a ton of different platforms right now. I'm on YouTube, Facebook, TikTok. Next week, I'm going to be doing all three of those plus Instagram. And maybe a fifth one, my personal page. I turned my personal page of Facebook the other day into a professional account to allow me to live stream via my Facebook pages, which is good. So anyway, welcome back to this episode of On Another Line Live. We're going to be talking about, again, my confidence baits in the wintertime that I feel like you're going to be catching a lot more fish in. But again, one of the things I want to really focus on this episode is jerk baits and how I fish them. One thing I will tell you guys is that I am not a pro by any means. I don't claim to be a pro, but I do like to fish, and it's all good. So if you guys are seeing me out on one of these other platforms like TikTok or Instagram or somewhere like that, the main place that you need to see my content is going to be YouTube. That's youtube.com/OnAnotherLine. That will just like pretty much anywhere you're seeing this. So I'd appreciate if you guys would share that out or go over there and subscribe. I have a 6,000 subscriber goal by the end of 2023. Which is, tomorrow is February, which is crazy. Anyway, but welcome back. You guys are talking, I was showing you guys a second ago out here on Facebook and YouTube that I have some nostalgia going on, and that's the only place you can see it. If you're on TikTok or places like that, you're not going to see it. But I've been playing Black Bass for Nintendo for, I don't know, the last 15 or 20 minutes. Misty and I were talking about it, and it's kind of funny that I still have it on my computer. But if you, let's see here. Throw this thing up here. I mean, look at that. I mean, quality. Again, super black bass. You're not seeing this anywhere else but Facebook. But pretty funny stuff. This is old school, like you're talking like 80s bass fishing technology. It's pretty cool. I will tell you, this game is absolutely super hard. we are going to. I'm going to go ahead and pause this thing and get back to the show. But I think one day I'm going to do a show just talking about trying to catch bass on black bass. Why not? But anyway, back to the task at hand. There is a lot of things that have been coming up lately on my channel. One of the things is that it's wintertime here in Ohio, guys. It's really tough to get out and fish. Today we had our first snow day from school, which is more of an ice day, which is kind of weird. We normally have 2 or 3 by now, but it's been unseasonably warm this year, which I'm happy about because I can get out and do some fishing. You guys are seeing that on my channels. But the last few weeks here, it's been really cold and it's been super, super windy and rainy, which is not good for fishing here in my area. But I do have a few things lined up. Matter of fact, I saw that he was live here on TikTok a second ago. I met a fellow the other day. His channel is called Slunger Cat, Slunger_cat over on TikTok. I'm sure he's got TikTok. I'm sure he's got Facebook and all that stuff over. But he is a really, really well-to-do cat fisherman here on the Ohio River. We've already talked about going out and do some fishing. So I know a lot of you guys see me doing some catfishing in the summertime. That is pay laking. I'm not a huge fan of it. I do it because I like to reel in big cats. But if I can get with him, go out on the Ohio River and do it like free range, I'm all about that. So you'll see that coming up soon, hopefully. So one of the things that, if I don't knock my phone down, or knock it down again. Sorry, guys. One of the things that we're going to be talking about today is going to be jerk bait. I posted a video today on my YouTube channel talking about baits that I feel like I have a lot of confidence in any time of the year, but more often than not when the water's really cold. And one of those was a jerk bait. And I talked about several jerk baits that I really like. My favorite jerk bait that's ever been made was actually made by Excalibur, and it was an Edwin Evers E squared jerk bait. It was in bone white. The thing absolutely caught fish. It was terrible quality. The Excalibur lures, in my opinion, aren't that bad. I don't think they're made anymore. If they are, it's just cranks and stuff. But I know they don't make the jerk bait, and they're definitely not partnered up with Edwin Evers. But there was a jerk bait that they really, really had. That was it was mint, man. You could cast it and catch fish pretty much all times of the year. But the bill on it was super flimsy, man. You get it in some rocks or something, and if you weren't careful, if you just was working that stuff, it would break those bills off 99% of the time, rendering it useless or much less just a keychain. So, yeah, man, I was wanting to come up there and hang out with you guys. Ended up getting sick last weekend. Had some kind of crazy 24-hour bug, and I am back to normal now. So I apologize for not coming up there and hanging out with you guys. I was really looking forward to it. It sucks, but that's cool. My buddy met Edwin too. He said he was a really nice guy. So what we're looking at right now is, we're talking about, bass fishing and things, but the jerk bait is absolutely one of my favorite baits on the planet when it comes to wintertime fishing. And wintertime fishing to me means really cold waters. Wintertime in your area may be totally different because it may be that you live in Florida and winter doesn't get really that cold. But if you live in my area or even north of me when it gets hard water season, you're actually ice fishing and things. Wintertime means difference between, it's different for everybody pretty much. The amount of light that's available, and we did just recently have like the shortest 2 or 3 weeks of the year. Now it's getting back into that longevity of where I'm actually seeing light after I get out of work. It's still daylight, which is good. I really like this time of year as it's coming up. But I had a comment on my video that I posted today about how to fish a jerkbait, and could I give somebody that may not have a lot of experience about a jerkbait where to fish them. And one of the things that I'll tell you about jerkbait fishermen is that they'll catch a lot of fish for you, but you have to be patient in the way you're throwing them, in my opinion. Well, like I said, a few weeks ago, I think I was talking about it, but one of my favorite episodes of anything that Zona has ever done, and I think it was Mark Rose or somebody that he was with, he was talking about fishing a jerkbait in this pond, which was like a water, I don't know, some kind of cooling pond I don't think it was a nuclear plant, but it was some kind of plant, it was some kind of cooling pond, but the pond stayed like 90 degrees all year round. And even during those times of years, he was having to really slow down his jerkbait presentation. Now, not all jerk baits are created equal, in my opinion. One, the length of them vary. You guys saw in my video, a couple of my favorite ones is a Jackal Re-Range 110 and a Jackal Re-Range 130. And in between those sizes, is a Shimano World Minnow 115. I think the World Minnow is going to be a player for me this year because I'm going to have a lot of so I think it's going to be a player for me because of the flash boost technology. And I don't think that the name of it is such a great deal. I think a lot of that is ported over from the Japanese language or whatever. But flash boost technology is nothing more than a piece of foil that's on two springs. And when you stop working the bait, that foil is still in there quivering in the bait, which, in my opinion, is going to get bit a lot more because it looks like the bait's still moving while it's sitting there. It could be, imitating gills coming open or whatever. But another thing, the reason I mentioned that is that not all jerk baits are created equal is the fact that you have different actions of jerk baits. For example, some of them are slow sinking, some of them are slow rising, and some of them absolutely stay at the exact same point in the water column as they are when you cast them out there or when you dive them deep. Now, I think these are very, very imperative to understand when these are better and when they're worse. For me, I really cannot tell a difference in a slow sinking or slow rising. I watched a video of Mike Iaconelli a few months ago saying that he likes as a cold front passes, he'll throw something that rises, and as it's coming in, he'll throw something that sinks. But personally, I cannot tell the difference. More often than not, it's my cadence and how I'm throwing this thing. What's up, Strick? Come on, bro. Jerk baits, they work way better than, way more than in the summertime. My opinion, a jerk bait, in my opinion, take this for what it's worth, because I'm about, 2 steps above an amateur, and that's like amateur, and then there's a weekend angler, or in between, that's where I'm at. But I think that when the water temperature gets 50 degrees in the fall, all the way up until it gets 50 degrees in the summer or in the spring, I think that is an amazing time to throw a jerk bait. Hey, Andrew, what's up, buddy? Thanks for joining us. So again, it's one of those crazy things where it's all about the cadence, in my opinion. But what I was talking about the Marzona show there not too long ago is that, well, I've seen it several years ago, but I was just thinking about it the other day, is that he had this thing. He said, jerk, check your email. He said, I'm talking slow presentation. He said, when you think that you're ready to go ahead and, wind that thing in, and he's like, you leave it there for another 15, 20 seconds. He's like, it is absolutely brutal to fish these things this slow, but it gets bit more often than not. So that's one of the things that I have seen in the grand scheme of things, is that it's all about having the patience to fish a jerkbait. I rarely catch a jerkbait fish when I'm working it really fast on the cadence. I just don't do it. You see KVD, who was mentioned earlier, he'll go out there to like Lake St. Clair and absolutely jerk the heck out of a jerkbait and make that thing look like it's on, crack or something. And for me, I've never been able to do that. Maybe because I'm not throwing it right. Maybe I don't have the right bait. Maybe I don't have the right setup, what have you. But those baits that you see him just really ripping jerkbait, or those times you see them really doing that, I've never personally done that. Probably 75 to 90% of the bites that I get on a jerkbait is when I'm uber slow with them, where I will work the bait a couple times and then just let the thing sit there. I heard Jared Caesar, a buddy of mine, was talking the other day about big fish being very territorial. And I think that's 100% true. I think that, fish that are not so hungry, or they're not trying to, hunt for food or whatever, I do believe that if you let a bait set long enough in a strike zone for a fish that's roughly where that fish lives, it's going to try to eat that thing, just for the simple fact that big bass are super territorial. They'll go out there and eat that thing just to get it out of their hair. They'd much rather eat it and be done with it. But that's where a lot of my fish come from on a jerkbait, is making super long casts. And we'll talk about where I throw them in just a second. But getting my jerkbait as far away from my boat as possible, especially in super clear water, but I guess that goes without saying. If you're fishing really clear water, you definitely need to get the bait as far away from your boat as you can. But one of the things that I also notice is that when if I'm fishing these things extremely slow, is you'll have a lot of fish, ton of fish that I catch are eating the bait while it's setting still. So you'll cast out and you'll work that bait 2 or 3 times, making it zigzag or what have you, and you will actually stop the bait. And as the bait is stopped directly in the water column, a lot of time a fish will come up and nose up to it. And then normally, if that thing sits there long enough in front of that fish's mouth, it's going to eat it. But the minute that you make that thing twitch, if it's nosed up on it, getting ready to eat it, the first little twitch you make or dart you make of that jerkbait, whatever the fish is around is going to eat it. Now, this is kind of, of course, this is like, duh, Captain Obvious. But if you're not throwing a jerkbait where you feel like fish are at, there's no sense of being there. I do throw some deeper diving jerk baits, but the deeper diving jerk baits that I throw are normally in that 8 to 12 foot radius or range as far as depth. I don't throw jerk baits that are lower than that. I just don't do it. I don't fish that kind of fishing. But if I'm fishing shallow, again, my favorite jerk baits is going to be a Jackal Re-Range 110, a Jackal Re-Range 130, a Shimano World Minnow 115. I like the clown collar in those, especially if it's really dark or really muddy, murky. And I will also throw a Rapala Shadow Wrap Deep, which is there's a 9 and a 7, it depends on which one. There's a slow sinking and a slow rising in both of those baits as far as the Shadow Wraps. So definitely check that out. But where I throw these baits is going to be somewhere really, it goes back to my video on YouTube today, is confidence is king. If I am fishing where I believe fish are at, then it's going to give me confidence to catch them. And that's kind of misleading when I say that. But nowadays with technology, I don't have the technology yet. I'm working on getting there. But with forward-facing sonar, it's really easy to not fish dead water, right? Because normally if you go out in a john boat and you don't have any kind of electronics and you go out to a lake that you've never been to before, you go out there, 100% of that lake is dead water to you. The reason that is because you don't know anything about it. You can't see it. That's why forward-facing sonar is such a game changer, because having the ability to see if fish are there that you're casting at is an absolute game changer. You can't tell me it's not. You can go up to a bank with forward-facing sonar, and if you don't see the fish on that bank, then you're gone. You go to the next bank. If you go to that bank and you see them staged somewhere else, for example, let's just say that I have a Jackal Re-Range 110 tied on that goes down to about 6 feet, depending on what kind of line you have. And I'm working that thing and I'm seeing it, and I'm seeing on forward-facing sonar, which again, I don't have. I'm working on it. Some of my buddies have, so I can see it firsthand. I can see my bait in the water. I can see it moving. And you could physically see fish nose up to that bait. And it gives you an opportunity to twitch that bait several different ways to learn how to fish that crankbait or that jerkbait. And that was one of the things that the fellow said earlier, like on my comment, how do you know when you don't have forward-facing sonar? Well, in my opinion, I think a lot of it is that you need to fish places where you think fish are going to be at that time. For example, in the wintertime right now when the water's super cold, I normally find fish in 2 different areas. That's super deep or super shallow, depending on what kind of water temperature you're looking at. But especially as it gets warmer in the spring, they're going to start moving more shallow and to get into the spawning grounds. But if you have a fish with forward-facing sonar and you can see that fish and it's at 12 foot and you're throwing a crank or a jerk bait that's 6 foot diving, you still may have the opportunity to catch that fish. But you're seeing it now, and that helps you. That is one of the biggest things without having live scope or forward-facing sonar of any kind, is throwing a jerk bait, is having the ability to figure out where those bass are staged or where they're located at in the water column. Because being able to find that is going to be crucial to you catching fish on a jerk bait. Again, a jerk bait starts on the surface, and as you work it down, it goes down to a certain depth, and it actually will stay there a lot of times. If it's a true suspending jerkbait, it'll stay right there in the water column, whereas if you work it, it may go down a little bit or may come up, depending on the jerkbait. But when you stop the bait, it's going to stay there within 6 inches of itself. It may slow rise, it may slow, may go down. And another thing about a jerkbait is fish it in some clear water and watch it when you're working it, because you can really, really, really make a jerkbait look like a live fish if you are really paying attention to what your bait is doing. Not all jerkbaits are created equal, guys. They're just not. Again, between the Re-Range 110 and even the Re-Range 130, they don't work the same. They're bigger. They displace more or different water amounts, and they actually will have different amounts of, action in the water. What's up, Nate? Glad you're joining, buddy. Hope you have a great week also, man. It's been good so far. Appreciate it. Again, if you guys are out there on the TikTok land and you guys would like to get a part of the conversation, we're out here live on Facebook and YouTube as well at OnAnotherLine, just like the stuff here on TikTok. Appreciate it. If you guys would go over there and give it a subscribe on YouTube, I'm looking at it for that 6,000 subscriber mark. So some of the baits we talked about today that were my confidence is king bait is going to be, especially in the wintertime, a flat-sided crankbait. Flat-sided crankbait could be something like a Frit-Side 5, Frit-Side 7. Could be a KVD 1.5 flat. There's a ton of different ones out there. There is a mysterious bait that I've been talking about for months on end that I told you guys the story, and it was 100% true. That I had a crankbait that I bought, really liked it, broke it off in Lake St. Clair after catching like 25 or 30 fish on it, and broke it off, and it floated by Dusty's boat. He tied it on and started catching fish on it and gave it back to me. I tied it on and won a tournament with it. I'm not ready to give up that secret yet. And first off, they're super hard to find around here. And when I find them, I'd like to have them, if you understand what I'm saying. But anyway, it's all good. Pretty good deal. So, hey, Carl, I appreciate it, buddy. Yeah, that was a surprise to me. Pam wrote that article about me last week. Actually, she contacted me and wanted to know if I was interested in being a part of it, and I was like, sure, why not? I didn't know what she was going to write the article about, but she basically wrote the article about who I am, which I was really impressed that she smashed all that information about me in there. So I appreciate that, man. The Beacon, which is the Ashland Beacon, is a newspaper in Ashland, Kentucky. But anyway, so I appreciate that very much. There's a lot of stuff coming from that. We have planned a trip here recently, myself and Kyle Malone, my buddy. We were talking today about we needed to get away because in the wintertime, it's really tough for me to produce content that you guys out there like to see, whether that be on Facebook, YouTube, Instagram, wherever it's at, you're seeing it. Most of the time it's on YouTube. It's really tough to produce content that's really good that people want to watch in the wintertime because I just can't get out and fish that often. It's so brutal cold around here that it's just not fun to get out. So Kyle and I were talking the other day, today actually, I was like, we need to plan a trip before we get to Lake St. Clair. We have a trip planned the second week of April to go for a weekend to Lake St. Clair. We're going to go up there and chunk and wine for some absolute bronze trophies. We've always go up, seems like mid-May, and we always smash them. We always have a great time, but I hate I'm just getting to the point where I don't like fishing for bedfish on Lake St. Clair anymore because they just get absolutely beat up. I mean, beat up. Like you can go out there on a midday in May and see 100 boats on the same patch of fish on beds just sitting there. You can literally, I think, drop a Ned rig in a bed, catch a male, catch a female, drop them back, and sit there and catch them 100 times a day. I don't think they'll ever stop biting. If you ever put it in if you put it in their bed, they're going to eat it, or they'll put it in their mouth long enough to try to get it out of their bed, and they'll, you can hook them, which is fun. I think that's okay, depending on, I just don't. It's not my style of fishing anymore, so we're going to go up and try to catch some fish before they get on the bed. Yeah, Mark. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. Like, if you ever have the ability to fish those things, as far as like mega live, and I do, like I said, I've said this 100 times over the last few weeks. I feel like that Garmin has the market wrapped up as far as the best stuff, as far as forward-facing sonar. I love my Humminbird stuff, the side and down scan imaging and 360 from Humminbird. I don't think I think it's second to none. But I don't feel like their forward-facing sonar is anywhere close to even being like the Live Target, or definitely not close to the LiveScope Plus. But I'm with you when it comes to those facts, is that you have a hard time feeling confident in your ability to catch fish, because if you go to a tournament, and like I said, I've seen it both ways. I don't have live scope on my boat right now or forward facing sonar. Hope I can get there eventually one day. But I can pull up on a bank and I can say, okay, well, I think these fish should be staged here, and I can fish it with a bait. And then I can have my buddy who has live scope pull right in behind me and see exactly where those fish are staged at, and cast to catch those fish, and watch how those fish react to their bait. And that is astronomical when it comes to tournament fishing. So it's kind of, there. I think there's one of those. I don't look down on people that have it. Am I jealous? You daggone right I am. Eventually I'll have it, right? I don't think that, and I do get the point where somebody said they should have some tournaments without electronics. That would be fun too. But who's going to fish them? I wouldn't. If I spent $15,000 on graphs and electronics for my boat, I'm not going to like take it off to go fish a non-tournament or, non-electronic tournament. But I think that people are right when they have the ability to say, hey, I should be able to fish with or without them. And I agree with that too. What's up, Larry? Hey, buddy. We are live in a lot of different locations. Again, guys, if you guys are seeing me on TikTok or on Facebook or Instagram or you name it, I'm live at like 28 different locations right now. If you would go over to youtube.com/OnAnotherLine and like that, or give it a subscribe, I'd appreciate it. Again, I have a 6,000 subscriber goal by the end of this year. It will mean a lot to me. So let's talk about some of the other baits I had on my list today. Again, a flat-sided crankbait is amazing. I do have a new bait that I want to share with you guys, and I know you guys are getting tired of me talking about it. The Blue Rock custom tackle triple threat jig is one of my favorite baits to throw right now. It allowed me to catch a couple fish the other day that I don't know that I would. It was weird, man. I picked up a crankbait and I threw a crankbait all day and ended up catching a 4-pounder. And I threw that crankbait almost all day long, the same one. And I never got bit on it again. I mean, not once. I didn't get bit on it, not even a sniff, not even a junk fish. There was nothing that I had that I got bit on that I thought was, anything spectacular. But then I picked up the Blue Rock custom jig triple threat. It's a finesse jig. It's kind of like a Ned rig or Ned head with a hand-tied skirt on it. I was throwing the 1/4 ounce in the blackout edition, which is totally black. I like the black and blue, but the blackout is what I was throwing. I'll show you guys that really quickly here. It's a really good bait, I do believe. So there's that. And again, no affiliation here with the Blue Rock custom tackle, just a buddy of mine. But if you're looking for a promo code to save you some dollar bills out there, the promo code Brandon Klein, BRANDONCLINE, will save you a couple bucks, probably shipping and maybe a little bit more, who knows. But this little 1/4 ounce blackout, again, the black and blue right here, I really like it a lot. Midwest crawl, and I like let's see, what is it? I think it's Ozark crawl right here. This Ozark crawl has black and chartreuse on it. I feel like that this is going to be a major game player if the water is murky or muddy. But this little bait right here has caught me several fish in the wintertime this year. It is weedless. It's really tough to see right here, but it does have a wire weed guard here, which is fairly good. What I've been pairing this up with, guys, is I'll show you guys really quickly. My opinion, net bait makes some of the absolute best trailers on the planet. See if I can find this. I've been cutting this down. So we'll look at Tackle Warehouse's stuff right here real quick. So again, this is a net bait Paca Slim. I've been throwing this. I think it's this one right here, the black blue flake. And what I've been doing with that triple threat jig is I've been cutting this thing down to this first group of appendages here, and then threading this on like you would a regular trailer. And man, I tell you what, it looks phenomenal in the water, and it also is really daggone cool. It's really compact, very, very small. And I believe I've been getting more bites on it than I have anything else. Slobber knocker chatterbait, thought it was second to none. What's your favorite chatterbait? Man, I'm a big fan of the I don't know, man. The slobber knocker, I've witnessed fish firsthand being caught on it, so I know that it catches fish. I have a hard time catching fish on a chatterbait, man, because I don't fish it enough. I put that on one of my baits today as far as my confidence baits, because guys, you can pull up your local news or your local channel, like Outdoor Channel, if you have that here, and watch some of the fishermen. Watch the MLF team. For example, I watched the day 3 of the team tournament for the MLF the other day, and I watched it. There was 3 groups, I think, of 3 anglers. There was 9 people fishing this one body of water, and I would say 6 out of the 9 of those people were throwing a chatterbait. And it's not because they're sponsored by them. I'm sure they are. They're getting these things for free a lot of times. KVD will tell you, G-Man says he's not. He had like a $2,000 order the other day from Tackle Warehouse of all these chatterbaits that he had. But I think if I was going to choose one, and I was only going to throw one, I think I would do the jackhammer. And I think if I was going to pick a collar, I would do the it's kind of like a shad collar, but it's like blueback herring or something, I think. They just come out with a new collar as well. But obviously in the springtime, the fire crawl is pretty tough to beat. I really think that the biggest part about getting bit on a chatterbait is the trailer that you have. If you have something that has a lot of action, that could be what the fish wants. If you have something that's a lot of action, maybe that's scaring them away. I've caught more fish on a chatterbait without a trailer than I have anything else, but it's because I've thrown it more without it, with the trailer, without a trailer. My favorite, though, Mark, to go with that is going to be the half ounce, the Evergreen jackhammer, and if I had to choose one collar, it'd be fire crawl. PB, my PB is not that big, man, to be honest with you. A little over 6 pounds, but I'm living in Ohio. Well, don't have to worry about TikTok anymore. My phone just died. Anyway, PB. Somebody asked me on TikTok what my PB was. Like 6.5 pounds. Not a giant. Hopefully I can change that this spring. We're going to some hammer holes. Again, Chickamauga here in a few weeks. Go down there for a few days, see if we can't find them down there. I think we're going to base our opinion on where we're going to go, either there or Dale Hollow or somewhere, based on the BFL weights for next weekend. Not this weekend coming up. Next weekend they have a BFL going down there at Chick. So we're going to check out the weights and determine our thing from there. But I'm hoping that my personal best will be beat here recently. Largemouth, 6.5 pounds roughly. The smallmouth is 5.5 pounds. Just caught that this spring on a bed in Lake St. Clair. Spotted bass. Funny story. I caught a spotted bass when I was a kid, probably 16, 17 years old, out of the backwater of Storms Creek, throwing a jointed Rapala, and caught this absolute monstrosity of a bass. Took it home. My stepbrother mounted it. Was probably 4 pounds, 4.5 pounds, I'd say. And the more I look at it on my wall, and Kyle and I have had conversations about it, it's 100% a spotted bass. So it's about a 4.5 pound spot coming out of the Ohio River about, 20 years ago. So those are my PBs. Biggest catfish I ever caught, probably in a pay lake, definitely was 64-pound shovelhead. The biggest catfish I've ever caught in live streams has been about a 20-pounder out of the Ohio River. Caught some, absolute hammer freshwater drums or sheephead out of Lake Erie. You go up there, it's a pretty good time. Biggest muskie I've ever caught was a tiger muskie up at Lake St. Clair last spring before last. Caught it on a Ned rig on a spinning rig, probably about 40 inches, a little over probably. fun to catch, man. But man, they're gnarly looking creatures. They'll slime your boat up from the one end of it to the other, and you only have to touch them. Back to my winter fishing stuff there. So I think one of the most underrated baits for wintertime fishing is a rattle trap or some kind of, I guess, lipless crankbait. There's literally 9,648,218 of them on the market, and they're all the same in my opinion. You can go back to the old Bill Lewis rattle trap where they actually came from. Matter of fact, there's a tournament on Gunnersville, I think, that you can only throw rattle traps, like the actual rattle trap brand from Bill Lewis or whatever, which I think is a pretty cool deal. But I've been throwing a Jackal TN60 lately because of the smaller profile. It gets down a lot quicker, gets down a lot faster. Man, can't quit yawning. Cool, man. I'll check it out. Definitely need that. I definitely need some spots. I've only been there a couple times. Misty has caught the biggest bass that we've caught out of there, and it was right at 5 pounds, which was her PB. That was the very first time we were down there. Pulled up into I caught some fish out of Cell Creek. We started fishing around this one point where Mark Hickey told us to start. Missed it on a jerk bait. She threw in with a swing jig and caught a 5 pounder, which was a really cool deal. So I'll definitely check out their stuff before I go down. And again, it's not set in stone where we're going, but I think we're going to go to Chick down for a few days and try to do some fishing, get out of this area, and see what we can do for Lake Chickamauga at this time of year. I know it's kind of dangerous down there because the water is really low and you have to run the channels and stuff. So I want to make sure we have our Humminbird maps up to date and everything is legit so we don't die to death down there. That would be terrible. That would be a terrible deal. But again, the reason I've been throwing the Jackal TN60 when it comes to a with a lipless crankbait is I like that the tip of them are tungsten. If it hits things, it creates more of a vibration. There's a lot more smaller BBs in the TN60, a lot more vibration. You get a lot more sound out of it. I do like some of the colors they have on the TN60. I like the white collar stuff, orange. As I mentioned on my YouTube video today, guys, do not overlook orange when it comes to winter time baits. Everybody says red, 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 red. Yeah, red works great in the springtime. It works great in the wintertime too, but if you have a bait that has a lot of orange on it, I can promise you, you're probably going to catch twice as many fish as you did with a straight red crankbait. Next time you're out in really cold water and you want to throw a crankbait, tie something on that's flat-sided and has some red or orange on it and just hold on. I feel like that you're going to catch them. Again, confidence is king. Confidence is key. If you don't believe that you're going to catch fish, you're probably not going to. It's all about confidence. I've said that for years. Check something here, real quick. Maybe. Hold on 1 second here. Come on. All right. He ain't wrong. Again, one of my favorite baits on the planet right now is red and orange. It just catches them, man. Again, I said on my YouTube video that there was the KVD 1.5 flat. I'm okay with the flat side. There are, if we look at this bait right here, the flat sides dive a little deeper. They're really not a 1.5. It's just it's a flat bait. So if we look at this right here, so this is the KVD HC flat, kind of an orange color here. Again, this is so that's chili crawl, fire crawl. This DB crawl right here, this is what I'm talking about, that orangish color. This Delta Red collar and Fire Crawl right here, these are two going to be phenomenal baits. I didn't even know this Fire Crawl bait existed until just now, so I might have to pick some of those up. I really like the orange in there. Again, you can see the differentiation between here and the Fire Crawl, the red to orange. I do believe that you catch more fish in the wintertime on orange baits, or when I say wintertime, I'm talking about cold water. If the water's really cold, go for those orange to red. I stay away from the bright reds like this, Delta Red, until it gets into the spring. Fall is amazing color, but I would much rather throw orange or something like this that will, I feel like it just gives me confidence in it. And that's a pretty cool bait too. Like, I didn't know any of these things existed. Phantom Watermelon Red Crawl. Clear water like Lake St. Clair or something like that, that thing right there would just absolutely get smashed. I have a feeling. Sexy Ghost. I think I have the Sexy Ghost. The Shizzle. Yeah, so like I said, that chili crawl is pretty good. I like it a lot. The Bully. I kind of like the way that looks too. Small World. Some other baits on that must-have list is going to be, again, there was several crankbaits in there. Again, a KVD 1.5. One of the things I'm not a huge fan of, like I think Strike King does so well with all their baits, but the 1.5 deep, I think it's called, I have literally not caught a single fish on one, but yeah, the KVD deep jerkbait. I'm sorry, not the jerkbait, the crankbait. It's just a 1.5, and I can't even get it to show up right now, but it's just a 1.5 that is supposedly a deeper running 1.5. I'd probably have 15 of these baits because I thought they were going to be an absolute money maker in the world of fishing. I've not found one that actually runs correctly. I don't know what it is, but they just don't run right for me. I think that's one of the biggest overrated baits on the planet is that KVD 1.5 deep. I've just never found one that actually runs like it should. I feel like if I wanted to tune crankbaits, I'd buy Norman's. You know what I mean? There's a reason that Norman baits have crankbait tuning on the back of them. Yep, I agree with that 100%. Weightless fluke. Depends on, so that's why I think that the lipless crankbait is so important for me too, because I can fish it in a lot of different depths. Even if you're throwing like a 1/2 ounce to 3/4 ounce rattle trap, depending on how fast you're actually bringing that across the water column, it's going to fairly pendulum down from your boat, so it's going to stay in the same area. But there's a lot of different techniques to creating, bites in the wintertime. One of my favorite baits right now that is so daggone hard to get in this area. See if I can find them here on Tackle Warehouse. And they have some here available on Tackle Warehouse, it looks like. But I'll share my screen here and show you. It's a new, if you guys have never fished a tail spin or something like the booger spin or something like that. Matter of fact, Chris Malone made the booger spin absolutely pay him one day. I think it's what he was using when he won the Toyota Series Championship, won like, a couple $100,000 on the bait. But a lot of people don't know that Jackal actually makes a tail spinner as well. It is called the Daracoup. Really cool bait. The difference between this and another bait like the booger spin or something like that is that these come in a ton of different collars. They come in a ton of different sizes. And these are really small so they're like 3/4 of an inch long, maybe an inch long max. The bodies of them are really, really tiny. They come in some really cool collars. The silver back here, by the way, is my favorite right here. This is my absolute favorite collar. One of the ways you can fish this bait is yo-yoing it off the bottom. I'm talking about ripping it off the bottom, letting it fall. It actually has action coming up and going down. But the thing about these things being, if you hold these on a tight line when you're fishing these baits, so if you throw this thing out there and you rip it up and you like hold your rod up so there's no line, if you hold your rod there, it's going to pendulum back towards your boat. It's not just going to drop all the way down. So it's going to shoot up and then kind of swim back towards your boat, which I think is a really cool deal. If make this a little bigger so you guys can see it, but here in the screen, we'll look at some of my other favorite collars. I did have a buddy of mine tell me that they were catching some fish on the gold collar. Dara shad here. I believe it's actually black and gold here. But these are fish catching machines, but they are very, very tiny, guys. When I say this, I'll see if I can find a bigger picture of it in someone's hand. I know the actual basking guys did a whole video on tail spinners. So if you haven't checked it out, you should probably go check it out. But I'm looking right now, trying to find I wish I could find a picture. Oh, there's one in a matter of fact. That's funny. I should mention that because right here is a screenshot, or it's actually their thumbnail for, let's see. Right here, you get this. So this is the actual thumbnail from the Tactical Bassin video. Again, you can see it's about 18 minutes long. Very, very well worth the watch. But you can see right there that Daracoop in the side of that fish's face. So not a giant bait. Really cool to fish. Demiki Volt. I've heard of the Demiki rig. So it's a blade bait. So they have a Volt Blade 55, which is very similar to the Daracoop, actually. Well, if I could grab the right tab. It's a good looking bait. Wow, that's a stellar looking collar there. Another thing that a lot of people don't know about these blade baits is that hooks absolutely make a difference in the retrieve that you're throwing, and also those 3 holes that are up there that are line ties, they absolutely will change the way your bait moves and comes back towards you in the water. Blade baits are another bait that doesn't get a lot of love in my boat. I have about 100 of them because I pour them with my own molds. I do have the Do-It blade bait mold, both sizes of them, and I pour the crap out of them. But I usually just use them when it's absolutely uber cold, vertically jigging on like points and stumps and things. Or I'm sorry, humps and points and things. Jigs was one of the things I left out that I put on my video today. 3/4 ounce football head jig, again from the tackle box, or Do-It molds if you pour your own. I've modified my Do-It mold jig to accept wire weed guards instead of having the fiber weed guards. I feel like the hookup ratio is better, but you're going to be fishing deeper with that 3/4 ounce weight anyway. I'll have to check it out, man. It's definitely looks stellar for sure. The Volt Blade 55 looks good. I'll have to see if there's a place around here that I can actually purchase them from, because I guess you can't buy them directly from Demiki. Probably, I don't know if Greg's got them at the tackle box or not. Did a video last week talking about the newest thing that I thought was new, but apparently there's other people that have been doing it too. there was Picasso Baits has come out with a bait being introduced and actually designed um, by a guide down in Gunnersville, and it's called the Shaky Vibe, which is a vibrating shaky head bait, but it's not meant to be fished like a blade bait or like a chatter bait or a blade bait of that style. It's when you rip the bait up off the bottom, it creates some chatter and then comes back down on itself. Um, Lonnie Cochran is the guide I'm talking about. He's the hammer guy down on Lake Gunnersville. He takes my buddy fishing a few times. He brought one of these things back to me, and I done a video the other day, and I feel like it's going to be it's going to have a spot in my arsenal. And there was a lot of people that were tagging me in videos where there's another, I guess, Z-Man has a bait like that similar. I do believe that like you're treading water that's really weird and thin when it comes to trying to knock off something that has a blade directly attached to the hook eye. We all know where that comes from. Z-Man has a patent for that. I think, if I'm not mistaken, that there was somebody, maybe it was Berkeley with the slobber knocker, or somebody paid Berkeley or a Z-Man for that for their use of it. They're the only ones that really have the availability to use it, other than Z-Man. But there's ways of getting around that stuff. There's loopholes. We're seeing this again, whether that be with the slobber knocker or people making their own baits and they're just putting split rings on the eye. They're not directly connected to blade. I guess the patent is for a blade that's directly connected to the eye of a hook. That's what the patent's all about. But I think that little fish, that little bait that I reviewed the other day, again, was the Picasso Shaky Vibe. I feel like that it's going to be add something else to my shaky head game that is not normally there. I feel like if you have fish that are really into reaction biting, if you threw that thing in and around cover and you could actually rip it around cover, I think you're going to catch a lot more fish. Which brings me to another point. I don't know if you guys have watched this, and it may be a couple years old. I'm just now getting the Outdoor Channel back. But I watched Zona's Awesome Fishing Show yesterday, but I don't know when it aired originally. But it was with Seth Feider, and it was like day one when he was with Seth Feider. They were at some crazy lake, probably in Minnesota or somewhere up north in Michigan. I don't know where they were fishing at. They said that they really didn't tell you where they were at. But they showed an underwater footage clip of like 5 or 6 smallmouth going around this one big boulder. And when they put the GoPro underneath that boulder, there must have been 100 crawdads on that thing. I mean, everywhere. They were just everywhere on that rock. And Zona said, I don't know, or I think it was Fighter that said that. It's like those guys are literally living on the edge. Like, they're on the edge of dying. They just don't know it yet. I don't know, man. I enjoy watching him. I think he's got a lot of knowledge, and I've caught a lot of fish working with some of the stuff he's talking about. But I love some of the stuff that they're showing, especially the people he's fishing with right now. It's a good deal. I enjoy his show. So, guys, right now we're about that 1 hour mark. You guys know that I like to stay live 1 hour roughly a week. Next week, I have sending. First off, I have an update on the DNR show. Getting a DNR officer on here and asking them questions about where our money goes and why they're not stocking bass in these things. I saw something the other day where Kentucky was stocking lake sturgeon. I mean, I know. So there's like caviar that comes from that, and like I guess it's a delicacy and all that stuff, but like for a sturgeon to get like even where you can harvest it, it's like 10-15 years old. So like why are they spending that money on there? But anyway, I did send an email out to the Ohio Department of Natural Resources. I did get a response. I am working on getting some people on the show, maybe multiple. I might be able to have like a full on like round table here with these people and try to get some of our questions answered. And again, I do not want you to think that I'm going to attack these people. I really would like to ask some questions to find out what I can do as an angler to better my chances of catching bigger bass, whether that means, raising some money. I did see the AFCO. There was a $25,000 AFCO I guess it was a grant given, and they're stocking some fish in and around the Ohio River. That's a good deal. I think the closest place they stocked it was about 2 hours, or it might have been the Meldal pool, but I think it was way down towards the dam. So we may not see the aspect or the the benefits of it here. But I'd like to get those people on. That's going to be my next goal, is to get somebody from the Ohio DNR on here. I figure so, man. It's all good. Like I said, I love watching him, man. You're right though. He's kind of like one of those deals where he's like a train wreck of the week. You don't want to look at it, but you can't turn away. Nate, appreciate it, buddy. Thanks for sticking around. So, yeah, man. So you hit a nail on the head right there, and I'd like to end this show with a quote that I saw. So I'm also an amateur luthier, which means I build instruments on the side. And I've just recently dove into creating acoustic instruments, and I have been watching a series on creating an acoustic video or acoustic guitar on video on YouTube, and I ran across a show called The Craftsman, and The Craftsman's on all cable television, as far as I know. If you're a woodworking person or like that kind of stuff, you should check it out. But it's talking about this guy who restores a lot of stuff. But he says something the other day that he likes to teach people what he knows, and the reason that is because he made a statement that was really like profound to me that I didn't know existed. I actually had to do some research, and it's 100% true. Is they found a wagon wheel from like the 16th century or something that had roller bearings in it. And that was, hundreds of years before we as civilized human beings had it. And this one person come up with it 400 years before we started creating them, created a frictionless roller bearing that he put in a wagon wheel several hundred years before we did. But his point from that is that if you're not teaching and telling people about what you're doing and how you're doing it, it could be to our detriment. Like, we could have had that stuff 300 years before we did, but the person that had it, their secret died with them, which is crazy. I thought that was really profound. And I do sell some guitars. They're just, I don't know. Guitars are weird. I have a lot of time in them. Most of my guitars, depending on my electric guitars, they sell anywhere from the $2,500 to $4,500 range. And that's the only problem with selling guitars, is that they have so much time and effort into them. I just don't, unless I charge that much, which is crazy for me to think about. I just don't make any money on them. Yeah, Marco, check it out. I will definitely do that. But anyway, guys, we're at that 1 hour mark. Look for new content coming from me every week here on Another Line. Live every Tuesday. A video before that or after that, we'll be posting that stuff. I do have a video coming up talking about fishing the Shaky 5 that you guys saw me have a show on, just basically introducing it here in the next few days. We're going to be going to the Tackle Box Open House, which is, let me make sure I'm getting my dates correct here. The 11th and 12th, which is not this weekend coming up, but next weekend, Saturday, Sunday. I do have some limited run. I wish I had it here. It's in there on the couch. I do have 10 limited run on Another Line leather patch hats that I will have at the tackle box. They'll be $20 a piece. If I have some left after that weekend, I will ship you one. I put $28 on Facebook today, but whatever it costs me to ship it to you, wherever it's at, I will, that's me not making a quarter on it. I will send that stuff to you gladly. If you're going to rep my brand, I'll send it to you. Just let me know. But again, that will be after next week in the Tackle Box Open House. Again, I wish I could tell you guys how low we're selling NRX Plus rods. I can't do it. I just can't tell you what we're going to be selling it for, but I'm going to tell you one thing. If you were there last year and you saw the price of them, I'm going to tell you they're going to be even cheaper than they were last year. They're also going to be, they've raised $50 this year as far as the NRX Plus goes, and they're actually going to be cheaper than they were last year. So you're getting even a better deal. And if you want to buy more than one, we're going to even knock more money off from them. It's crazy. You're never going to find a deal like that. Usually have a ton of baits up there. Usually does some decent deals on jackhammers. Usually they're about 13, 14 bucks a piece, where they're normally 16 or so. A few bucks off of those. Yamamoto Senkos are usually fairly cheap. You have some Zoom specials. I need to talk to Greg this week about it, but he usually does a penny per yard with mono, but he didn't do it last year due to COVID and the amount of people that's normally there for that. I'm going to ask him about that, see if that's something they're going to do, and I'll let you guys know. But there's over 1,100 rods in stock. Got a ton of reels in stock if you're looking for Vanfords, if you're looking for things, whether you're Shimano, Abu, Quantum, whatever you fish. He is loaded to the gills with a lot of stuff. Does have a few firearms in the house if you're looking for that stuff. That stuff's usually not part of the deal. But if you're looking there, he does have some of that stuff. His buzz baits and spinner baits are second to none, in my opinion. I love them. So if you're in my area and you want to come out and just shoot the breeze and have the opportunity to win a fishing rod, come out next or 2 Saturdays from now. That is the 11th and 12th of February. And seeing as how it's so close to Valentine's Day, tell your honey that, let's go to the tackle box so you can buy me something. Thanks, Eric. Appreciate it, man. Thanks for being number 4,000. Something I always remember. Anyway, guys, we'll see you guys next time. If you guys can, get out there and lean on them. We'll see you next time on Another Line. See y'all.